Howdy, and welcome to LeeReads, where I talk about the books I've been reading and enjoying lately. October, November, December are my favorite months of the year, so we're getting into a great quarter. I'm almost feeling inspired to make a TBR for it, even though we know how well I do at TBRs. But this video is talking about the books that I read in September. Some of the books were eARCs. I also have audiobooks and ebooks. The only book that I read in print that I still have is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This is the one that I finished the most recently, and I still need to think about this book. It's short. The movie Annihilation was based on this book, which I haven't seen the movie, and I do want to watch it now and compare, although I have heard that the ending was changed. In this novel, you are following the botanist. She is a member of a team, the 12th team, sent to explore Area X. And people who lived there are gone. The land and the animals and everything are changed. And you are following this biologist as she and several of her other members of her team are trying to figure out what happened. They have been trained for the past 6 months, and their goal is to chart more of Area X and also kind of try to figure out what happens. But it's quite twistier and weirder than that in a way that I can't really get into without spoilering. One thing that I'll mention as part of a character motivation, aside from her being a biologist and really being interested in what is physically going on here, was that her husband was a member of the 11th expedition, which makes a really kind of interesting layer on top of everything that she's experiencing. It does have some cosmic horror vibes, which I've kind of been into lately, but I feel like there's a lot that you could potentially interpret differently or take away from Annihilation, so I still need to think about it. It did remind me of Alien Clay by Adrian Tchaikovsky, which should be coming out this month. Not in terms of plot, characters, or anything, but there are aspects of it that are similar to me. So once you read Alien Clay, and if you've read Annihilation, maybe we can talk about that. But again, I don't want to spoil things. I think I might like to reread it someday, but at the very least, I want to go kind of explore more in terms of what other people have had to say about it, because I just am not sure what I think happened. Does that make sense? Okay, some eARCs I read. Both of these books I think are out. They came out in September. The first one is Foul Days. It's a debut novel that was pitched as for fans of The Witcher and Naomi Novik, which is what drew me to it. I tried to do a reading vlog for this one, and that video was kind of cursed. The audio was messed up. I lost part of the video. It's following a person who is a witch. She lives inside this walled city called Chernograd, and monsters are frequent in the city, but especially around the New Year during the Foul Days, 12 Foul Days, the monsters are a lot more deadly, and a witch's profession is basically to teach people how to deal with these different types of monsters, and that's kind of where the Witcher aspect came in. But the main plot is that she was desperate. She's running from something in her past and made a reckless choice to trade away her shadow in order to try to escape this thing from her past. And a witch's shadow is her source of power. And every witch that doesn't have a shadow will eventually turn into a shadow. That starts happening to her rather quickly. And so her mission is to find and reclaim her shadow. She ends up meeting and falling into cahoots with this investigator who is from the city that surrounds Chernograd, the city outside the city, and he has a mission of his own. It kind of made me think of The City and the City by China Miéville. It's not layered cities, but they still are in close contact, and it's like contraband to go back and forth between them. It's like the fantasy version of that, in a sense. I did enjoy this one. At first, I didn't love the character, but she grew on me throughout the story, and I think it's because she had the sense of humor and is trying to tackle this problem in increasingly dangerous situations. So Foul Days is one that I think would be great to read this time of year. The other one is a young adult fantasy called 13th Child by Aaron A. Craig. It is about this 13th daughter who was born to a very poor family, and so they basically promised her to death, essentially, when she was an infant, and she spends her childhood waiting for her godfather to come collect her. When he finally does, he trains her to be a wonderful healer, and she knows when people will die, and she knows how to cure people, but that comes with a cost. And again, this one had its side of darkness, kind of dealing with those themes. I really enjoyed this one too, how everything concluded. So she's kind of struggling against this fate, in a sense, her fate and her healing power, and trying to fit in with the people that she winds up caring for. I liked this one too. On to some romance. Finally, okay, so I went to Barnes & Noble months and months ago, and I bought an Abby Jimenez book. Where is it? I can't find it at the moment. Anyway, I bought what turned out to be the third book in a series, and it turns out that although the books are standalone within this series, following different couples, because that's very common in contemporary romance, everyone suggested to read the series from the beginning. So I've had a library hold on Part of Your World for the longest time. It finally came in. The premise is pretty classic. These two people from totally different social standings. One is this doctor from this very wealthy family that has this history of, there's always been a doctor on the board at this hospital, high expectations. And he has car trouble, is helped by this guy in this small town. The rest is history. I thought it was very sweet. I liked the second book more. Yours Truly is the second one, and it again follows a character that we were introduced to in the first book, who is an ER doctor. She is in the running to be chief, and this other doctor transfers into her hospital, who is kind of positioned to run against her for that. So that's where the tension is there. But I really liked the male main character in that one. He's dealing with anxiety. It felt extremely relatable to me. So that said, I read book 1 and 2 in that series this past month, and now I can finally pick up the book that I have a physical copy of somewhere. Oh, it's on my 2BR pile in the other room. Now I can finally pick that one up. And then I read the book that I put on my indie book, Our Fantasy Bingo card, A Throne in the Dark. I bought it a while ago when I put it on the card, and so I figured it was time to pick it up. This is a indie published fantasy romance, but I actually ended up getting it on audio too, which I think was the right way to go. This is funny. I kept snort laughing as I was listening to this. The main character is the heir of the Dark Lord. He is supposed to be the villain, and his mission in life is to restore his father to his body. His father was the big bad Dark Lord that in the past got defeated, and his consciousness is now held in this inanimate object. And so the main character, he wants to free his father from this. So unleash the Dark Lord. So it's a villain's path, right? And he encounters this woman who has snuck in to try to steal a dark artifact in order to bring it back to her home and help her family, though she's being very cagey with him about who she is. When they meet, they're both needing the same object, and he accidentally ends up kind of cursing her. He had all these plans. He has this magic spell ready to go to help him free his father, and it gets messed up and gets basically cast onto her. So now they're in this together, and that's where the story starts. I think I'll be continuing with the series. Like I said, it's really funny, refreshing. It's like a character that is morally gray, I guess, because they are the villain, and yet that doesn't mean they're a bad person. The series kind of brings up that question, what is your destiny? What does it mean to be a good person or a bad person? The motivations behind why you're doing things, etc., etc. All in all, a fun series, a fun reading month. And I'm in the midst of several other books that I'm excited to talk to you about next month. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you're as excited for fall as I am. And as always, don't forget to support the local library. Thanks.